much as it may aggravate the pitching staff, they're rising the occasion and sort of atoning for some of these failures in the lineup. So if that can keep up, yeah, we're talking about a pitching staff that's carrying the way here, and they've done it all year. If they can hang in there for about 3 more weeks, yeah, this could be another special finish like we saw last year.
Absolutely. You just reminded me, last time we talked last week, the word said was, you watch, JK, you're going to have a different story here when they sweep the Sox this weekend and come Monday. And look, and by the end of the weekend, because I had some other people go, man, every time I'm like, yeah, Jerry's going to finally be proven wrong here. Then they go run off a sweep or whatever, and you go, yep. Man, here they go again, And like I said, if you're looking for things that bode well for the Indians here heading into this series, and I mentioned Santana, warming him up there. I mean, seriously, earlier in the season, who figured he's going to be up around 30-plus home runs by the time this thing is over? And he's right there. He's becoming back into being that bat in the middle of the lineup that makes things fit together all of a sudden. It becomes a lot easier when he's going 3 for 8 in the doubleheader with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs,
Yeah.
But you look at tonight.
Yeah, and a lot of that.
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. That ties into what we were saying before too about sort of settling down, nailing down that defense. I think clearly the turning point for him offensively was him getting that job at first base and
go to first.
Yep. Like they quit the third base experiment. Lonnie Chisenhall slid over there, and suddenly now he righted the ship. He's still, I think he was 180. I think he was hitting up to about Memorial Day or so.
Yep.
So yeah, to be hitting 230 or 240 or wherever he is right around now, and to be around 30 home runs is remarkable considering how poorly he was hitting the first couple of months. So there again, that's something I would like to think that going forward, and maybe next year, the Indians can kind of figure some of these things out before July.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Similar to last year, they didn't really figure it out and get everything all together and all the pistons firing until Labor Day. So I'd like to see them maybe figure this out a little earlier next year, and we'll be in better shape come this time. But yeah, better late than never. I'd rather have this than what we saw 2 years ago where they're losing 24 games in August. This is much more fun.
Absolutely. And tonight, it's going to be really intriguing with the matchup because Price has struggled, except for that one good one he had about a week, 10 days ago against the Indians. But he struggled other than that. That's kind of a good one in the middle of a couple of bad ones. I know last time against San Francisco, he gave up 5 runs and lost the game. Meanwhile, Carrasco, of course, we know he's coming in continuing to be hot. However, the Tigers got to him, but he was able to keep him off the board, struck out 10, pitched well. Carrasco, there we go. Carrasco
has got to come up. It's emotional.
I'm telling you, I'm
fired up, man.
I'm fired up, but David Price, seriously, he has not been the guy you thought he was when you traded for him. A good way, perhaps, to start things tonight.
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting. As much as I wish that we had Kluber going this weekend, I mean, maybe they should have held him back. I don't know. I'm not a fan of tinkering with your rotation,
right?
To have better matchups or have your better pitcher pitching the bigger game, until you're down to a do or die situation. So I'm not endorsing that at all. But at the same time, oh boy, I wish Kluber were going tonight or tomorrow. Had he not, and we'd have lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota, this wouldn't be quite as important maybe than it is. So you just got to let the chips fall where they may and trust that. And that's the other thing, too, is while Kluber has been head and shoulders better than everybody, the entire rotation really has risen to the occasion. There's been guys who've had the occasional rough game, but, yeah, they really have stepped up. Everybody has had probably, if you look at the guys that are starting, first of all, who would have thought that the majority of these guys would be the starting rotation back in April? I mean, House and Carrasco.
Yeah.
Carrasco, yes, and then no, and then yes again. We're on that carousel for a while. And this is just a very, very different rotation, and pleasantly so. Typically, when you have a rotation that is completely rebuilt over the course of the year, that does not bode well, and you're not better at the end than you were at the beginning. But in this case, they are. So, yeah, who knows? This is going to be a lot of fun. It's so much fun, again, to have meaningful series in mid-September for the Indians. I think we oftentimes, even now, we overlook that. Even after last year, we may have just expected this, and we're not soaking this in and absorbing this and appreciating it. We've been a long time. We went several years without without any kind of meaningful baseball being played in September. So to be talking with 17 games to go about what the Indians need to do and how they need to do it, even if the odds are long, this is fun. This is really important, and I think this proves that while even if they don't make the playoffs, and that'll be a disappointment, that this is not an altogether lost year. I think there was some progress, there's some good things that we have seen to this point, however this wraps up, and reason to be optimistic for 2015.
See, I think this is way more fun than last year, because last year, yeah, it got fun. Don't get me wrong, but this is the games are more meaningful to me, I think, and just the way things set up here. You had to get towards the end of that run before you went, man, they may be able to do this thing. To me, it's sitting right there. I mean, and I look back to the first half of the season. We've pointed out addition by subtraction, whether it's continuing to play Nick Swisher when it was hurting the team, the nothing you were getting from Masterson and Asdrubal. I really think that's the biggest change to this team. It wasn't who you added. It was that you removed some dead wood in a couple of key spots, and it makes you wonder what the season could have been had, like you said, they got things the right way from the beginning and put the whole thing together. And you brought up House. He's 3-3. Who thought he was even going to pitch, let alone, he's got a 3.4 ERA.
Totally.
The whole rotation in the second half, and it's even lower. If you go to the last 30 days, it's 2 flat. But over the whole second half of the season,
I mean, that's bloody amazing.
It's
nuts. I can't believe
Who does that? Who does that? But in the second half, it's the second best in all of baseball, not just the American League. A 2.91 ERA in the second half of the season for the Indians starting rotation, second best in all of Major League Baseball. And even Terry Francona yesterday, he said, "I hate to say this because all I'm focused on is one day at a time, and we're winning right now." But part of you looks at these guys and goes, "Man, looking ahead, it could be fun, but we're not doing that right now." But he does have a point because, as we say, looking at these guys, and of course they're not all going to continue this, but there's enough that it's like a volume shooter. You take enough shots, some of them are going in, Some of these guys are going to be what we think they're going to be or what we're seeing here. That's what's fun.
And to some respect, we did sort of predict this, not directly, but I remember talking with you before the season started in spring training about the depth that the Indians did have in their starting pitching, that if a guy or two flamed out or got hurt or whatever the problem may be, that there were other guys to step in. Now, I think why we're surprised is we didn't realize how deep they were. I think we were thinking of guys like Josh Tomlin, we were thinking of guys like McAllister, and neither of them have really panned out this year either. We certainly never counted on a TJ House, and I know I, for one, didn't expect Carlos Carrasco to be a viable starter. Even when he came out of spring training as a starter, I thought that was a mistake. And then when he did flame out the first time, I never would have thought he would have come back. But yeah, you're seeing this, and even I think Trevor Bauer, I think he's probably overachieved a little bit for this season, for his first basically full season as a starter. And the Indians just have depth, and there's a lot of credit that has to go to Francona, to Mickey Callaway. They've just done a fantastic job of handling this pitching staff. And whenever you see it in any sport, not just in baseball, but when you see a team and when you see players dramatically improving as the season goes on, that's coaching. As much as you can criticize or want to criticize them for, they get off to slow starts or they should have this stuff taken care of earlier, that's fine. That's an argument for another day. But when players and teams improve and are stronger at the end of the season than they were at the beginning, that's good coaching.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've made the argument for the whole second half of the season that Terry Francona deserves manager of the year this year more than last year.
Maybe more so. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
I would agree. He was not going to get it unless there's another dramatic finish. I mean, that's a tough,
he will,
because there will. But
he'll
he'll get some votes, and deservedly so, knowing that there was more turmoil. There was more injuries. I think there was more to deal with this year than the first year. So yeah, this is absolutely another wonderful job. And again, I hope that we really kind of sit back and appreciate. Cleveland sports fans have a tendency to the second after success is achieved with a coach or manager, you begin second guessing him and thinking, boy, I bet we've had somebody else. We'd really be good. We've seen that through the years with Marty Schottenheimer. We've seen it with Glenn Wilkins. A lot of really good coaches that have come and gone, and we thought, now that he's gone, now we'll really fly. And rarely does that work out. So Not that Terry Francona is really receiving any kind of criticism, but that time will come, and I hope we remember this and hold on to these memories of these last 2 years and what he's capable of doing and what his staff is capable of doing.
Talking about he's going to get some votes. When you win the World Series, the manager doesn't just get some votes for Manager of the Year here, my friend. You've just got to watch this
they'll
thing.
Vote before that, though. They will vote before they go and win the World Series.
I know. But I'm telling you, man, it's fun. It starts tonight. I am with it. I am fired up. By the way, this doesn't directly affect the Indians, but it will when they get into that playoff that we're talking about here. Chris Davis, I don't know if you heard it, but the Orioles suspended for 25 games here this morning. Going to miss at least the first 8 games of the postseason or whatever part of that the Orioles would play for. He says it's for Adderall, for some type of amphetamine failure there. But I find his stat line funny. It's like, although he's only hitting $196, he's second on the team with 26 home runs and 72 RBIs. I'm like, man,
he's there, Nick Swisher.
That's that Mark McGwire stat line where that one season, like his last full season, I don't know if you remember, he batted like 100, but he had 40 home runs. Like everything that he did hit was a home run. It was either a home run or nothing that last season of his. I just remember going, tell me that is not proof of a steroid-addled stat line, that even when there's no hand-eye coordination left, the guy could still hit 40 home runs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting that I found it interesting too, and I'm sure you got it as well. They got the email from the Indians about your guaranteed playoff tickets if you buy season tickets now. You know, getting the playoff tickets are going to go on sale. They're getting a plan together. They're getting here we go again. It's starting again, and you think, just remembering last year how preposterous that seemed when we got that email, and this year maybe not quite so preposterous.
Yeah, there you go, you know, so interesting. But for those of you guys, the Orioles there, obviously having a strong season, that's going to hurt them. And you know what? Hey, this is just common sense thinking out loud. When you're batting 196 and frustrated, maybe that leads to you taking what you tested positive for. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, makes a whole lot of sense to me. It really does. So, but anyways, just wanted to bring that up. All right, well, I got a couple of minutes with you before I let you go. We talked a lot of Tribe here. I haven't gotten your thoughts. I did at halftime, and I have not talked to you since halftime of last week's game. So I'm very curious to see where you're at. Obviously, at halftime, you and I were like, ooh, this could be like the worst team ever if this first half continues. But that's not what happened. Where are you at with the rest of the game and with the Browns here coming into New Orleans?
Well, here's the thing. As much as I was happy to see that they did come back, right? I mean, quickly, my experience with the game was I was on the road Sunday afternoon, and by the time I was able to catch the score, it was 24-3, and so it's like, no, I'm not tuning into this. And then when I checked it again later, then it was, I think they had tied it at that point. And my experience as a Cleveland fan, your first instinct is, oh my God, turn it on. And my experience, the better angels of my nature said, no, you know how this is going to end. And God, if it didn't end exactly the way I knew it was going to. So I actually didn't tune in. I, went back and sifted through the rubble later. But having done that, I think that my fear is, for as much as it's nice to see that they came back, and technically while they didn't win and it doesn't qualify, it technically was the greatest comeback in Browns history. They'd never come all the way back from a deficit that much. It didn't pay off. They didn't win, so it doesn't technically qualify. But they had, being down 24 and coming all the way back to tie the game is amazing against anyone. But that leads to my real concern. And what I take away from that is, and you see this in a lot of sports, and not just in football, not just with the Browns, but when a team jumps out to a lead, to a big, big lead real early, they oftentimes just check out of the game. Like, they're just mentally not there. Even when the game gets close, they're just not able to get back into that rhythm. They're not mentally able to get back to the place where they were at the beginning. And my fear is that is what happened. It was more about the Steelers just sort of chalking it up as a victory and not having the intensity, not having the focus, even when things got gritty in the second half. They did what they needed to do, yes, and they won the game, but they were just never the same. And the Browns took advantage of that, and it became almost like a preseason game in some regard. The first stringers were all out on the field, but mentally it really kind of was. So that's my fear, and I to see such a